All right, today we're talking about mind mapping and brainstorming on the iPad. There's a couple of apps that the district has used that are very helpful for creating hierarchies, for categorizing, for creating mind maps, bubble maps, and I'm going to show you both of those today. So first of all, let's take a look at one called Popplet Lite. This is the free version of Popplet, which is a bubble map or brainstorming app. And this allows you to create hierarchies, bubble maps, mind maps, brainstorming maps. But because it's the free version, there are some limitations, so we'll talk about those too. First of all, though, let's create our first bubble. In Popplet, they call their bubbles popples. And if I click on that gear along the top, like I just did, I'll make my first popple. Each popple gives you a couple of options. The first along the left-hand side is I can change the color of that popple. This is nice if you're doing something with hierarchies or with various levels because you can label each level according to color. If I move to the next one, we can add text, and along the right there you can see that I can adjust the size and orientation of my text. Let's just keep it in centered and middle. And let's say I'm making a simple family tree. Let's do that as our example here. So I'm going to label this first one my grandparents, and we're going to go ahead and let's put their names in there, Ron and Ginny. All right. The next option over, which is the pencil looking tool, allows you to add some kind of drawing. So if I wanted to get really creative, I could draw a nice picture of my grandparents. And then finally, all the way to the right there is an option to add a picture to your popple. So if I had taken a picture of my grandparents or saved a picture of my grandparents, I could find it in my camera roll and add it to that popple. So those are the four main options you have when you're working with a popple. If I grab the center of the popple, I can move that anywhere on the page. And then finally, you're going to notice on each side of a popple are gray bars when that popple is selected, or gray circles. Whichever circle I click on, that's where my next popple will show up. Now because we're doing a simple family tree here, let's add one below for the children. So my grandparents' children's names were Sharon, Linda, and Lori. If I wanted to make a more advanced, family tree, I could have put them in 3 separate boxes and easily have adjusted them, but because we're just doing this for simplicity's sake, I just put them all in one. So now I don't want those 2 boxes. I can click that X along the top and delete those popples. Now because this is the next layer down, I'm going to go ahead and change the color so the children will be in blue. And then finally, I could also add a final popple with the grandchildren. Casey, Tanya, Chris, Brent. We don't need to add all of them here because there's a whole bunch of them, but then again, I could change the color for each level. So that is just a basic overview of how Popple works. Again, you can add popples on all sides, you can adjust them, recenter them, move them around. It's very simple to work with, make them smaller, drag them out. It's a pretty cool app. The only downside is this is the free version, so let's talk about limitations. The first limitation is I can only have one popple. So if I started this today, I could close it and I could finish it tomorrow, but I couldn't keep 2 separate popples. So if I'm working on a popple in one class or a Popplet in one class, I'd have to turn it in before I can start a new one. And then let's talk about turning in. Also in the free version, I can't email directly to the teacher, but I can save this as a picture and email that to the teacher. It's a really easy workaround. What we're going to do is we're going to go to export in the top right hand corner. Those 2 top options, emailing a PDF and emailing a JPEG, do not work in the free version. So if I click on it, oh, just kidding. I'm sorry, emailing a PDF does not work in the free version. Emailing a JPEG, however, does work. So you need to make sure you choose JPEG. That is the limitation when you're using the free version. So I could go ahead and put my teacher's name in here and send it to their MyPanthers account. We've talked about naming conventions before, making sure that you put the hour, last name, first name, and some kind of description of the assignment to make it easier for sorting for the teacher. Okay, so that's a quick overview of using Popple. I'm going to cancel out of that. We're not actually going to send it, so I can create different colors, different layers. When I am done with that, I can clear it and create a new one, but I can only keep one at a time. So if I hit clear, I could clear all of those and start over again, but I can't save multiples. And then remember, when you're sending it, you can either save that JPEG, or when I email it, I need to make sure I email it as a JPEG. I can't email it as a PDF. So that is Popplet Lite. The next one I'm going to show you really quickly is similar, although you may use it for different purposes. It's called iBrainstorm. And what iBrainstorm does is it allows you to add little post-its and to manipulate them around your screen. So up along the top, I'm going to click the plus sign, and you're going to notice that it adds a little post-it note. If I double tap, it allows me to write. So let's say I'm categorizing animals. So I'm going to write fish as one of my animals. And good. Let's add another one. Maybe I'm dog, and another one. How about a tiger, and how about a penguin, and how about a cat? All right. Now, if I zoom in a little bit here, because they are kind of small, there's a couple ways you can imagine using this. It could simply be a place to record brainstorming ideas. So if we were brainstorming different animals, well, there you go. You could also use it as a categorization tool. So let's say you wanted to categorize by animals that we keep as pets, and then animals that we don't. Right? We can manipulate them very easy. Even young children can move these around really simply. We could also use it similar to the way we used Popple, where we created some kind of mind map. So let's say our center bubble is animals. And now using the pen tool, and I can select different colors if I want to, I can create links. Oops, I didn't want to add that one, so I'm going to hold it and delete. But now I can add various links to my different areas. So this is another tool that you can use for brainstorming, for coming up with ideas. You can sketch little notes on here, animals. But it's really just a great way to get some ideas down on a screen. Now, if you did want to send this in to a teacher, up in the top right-hand corner, I can click that button, and I can either save this to photos or I can send it in an email, just like we did with the previous file. And remember, we're going to make sure that we go in and rename the subject, our last name, and first name, and add the name of the assignment, whatever the teacher decided. So all of those things are very helpful. And then finally, the nice thing about iBrainstorm over Popplet is that if I click here, you're going to notice that I can have multiple projects. I don't just need to have that one project. I can have multiple projects, which is a nice perk of this over using Popple. All right, so those are two tools that you can use for mind mapping and brainstorming, Popplet as well as iBrainstorm.